Banja Luka, Bosnia-Herzegovina in June 2022.
Sedaj.
100 bikers hit the road for a 2-day motorbike ride in celebration of the Serbian bank holidays in Vidovdan. Blaško and his brothers, as he calls them, belong to the bikers club known as the Wolves of the Night. They are Serbs, fervent Orthodox believers, nationalists and pro-Russians.
Rusiju toliko volim da sam svoje kćerci dao ime Rusko, a po nacionalnosti se vodi kao Ruskinja.
The wolves symbolize the Russian influence in the Balkans, a region located in the heart of Europe. They proudly show off their political leanings. The Z in support of Putin's army, the Russian-Serbian flags, and a variety of nationalist signs. Vladimir Putin's regime is playing on tensions between Orthodox Serbs and Muslims, a division that tore the region apart 30 years ago. So, as we approach the Muslim area, the wolves prefer to keep a low profile.
Zato što idemo sada kroz federativni dio, kroz federaciju. Ovo je do sad bila Republika Srpska federacija, pa da ne bi bilo provokacija nekakvih i to.
On the edge of the road, no one was there to see them pass. A few kilometers further on, the bikers arrived at a Serbian town. They put their flags back up. Every opportunity to display the Russian Z is welcome. Kosta Rashimovic is one of the club's executives.
Ruska armija, armija Rosije.
His body is covered in the tattoos of a true Serbian nationalist, ultra-violent towards Muslims.
Ovo je govor Ratka Mladića.
Ratko Mladic is also known as the Butcher of the Balkans, commander-in-chief of the Serbian forces during the Bosnian War and executioner of Muslims. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for genocide and crimes against humanity.
Granice se krvlju crtaju i prekrajaju. Otadžbina se brani svim silama. Nije mrtav vojnik ako izgubi život braneći otadžbinu, mrtav je ako izgubi svoje vekovno ognjište.
The message is clear. The Serbs must always be ready to fight for their territory, exactly as Vladimir Putin is doing today in Ukraine. The Russian president is advancing his pawns closer and closer to our borders by attempting to destabilize the Balkans. To gain more of an understanding of his strategy, we visited 3 countries: Bosnia, Serbia, and Montenegro. These 3 independent states didn't exist 30 years ago. They were part of Yugoslavia. An ethnic and religious melting pot consisting of 3 main groups: the Croats of the Catholic faith, Bosnians and Albanians, Muslims, and the most numerous, the Serbs, Orthodox Christians. Between 1992 and 1995, Serbs, Croats and Bosnians clashed in Bosnia. The main victims were Muslims who were victims of ethnic cleansing. But NATO intervened and the war ended. And 30 years later, the situation hasn't calmed down. In fact, quite the opposite. To extend his influence in the Balkans, Vladimir Putin can count on the support of Serb nationalists in Bosnia, who are prepared to take up their arms once again. For them, Vladimir Putin is both an unfailing supporter and an example to follow.
Da vam kažem, ja njega lično jako cijenim, volim, poštujem ga, smatram da je najjači političar na svijetu, to je dokazao.
Russia has taken over a key sector in Serbia, energy, thanks to the energy giant Gazprom.
Nažalost, Srbiji su vezane ruke, ali mi smo u problemu jer nama naš predsjednik govori da su njemu vezane ruke.
In Montenegro, God himself is helping Vladimir Putin thanks to the Serbian Orthodox Church, which isn't afraid of employing paramilitaries.
U svako doba, dana i noći, u našim crkvama borave strana paramilitarna lica koja su spremna da izvršuje sva naređenja koja im dolaze od vrha sveštenstva, ali također i od ruskih i srpskih agenata.
Just look at this coast. Just imagine to have a port, a Russian port in Montenegro. And that was the goal. That was the goal from Russia, taking all infrastructure projects in Montenegro, the energy, the port, everything what we have, you know.
In the Balkans, the Russian influence is cultural, economic and security-based, an influence that is still very much underestimated by the European Union.
Mr. Macron, when he was here in Belgrade, and I realized that they simply don't understand. Russians are thinking 50 years. They are preparing things for decades in advance. Without Ukraine defense in February, you'll already have a war in Bosnia.
Peace for now, but will the Balkans manage to avoid war? Let's go back to the Serbian part of the Night Wolves biking trip on the roads of Bosnia. The bikers have arrived in Drvar, a small Serbian town surrounded by Muslim territory. Since the end of the war in 1995, the country has been divided into two large regions, the Muslim Croat Federation in the south and center, and around it, the Serbian Republic. These two territories constitute a single nation, Bosnia-Herzegovina. Here in Drvar, unlike in the Muslim localities, the bikers receive a warm welcome. Wolf leader Goran Tadic greets the town mayor. And the bikers of a local club.
Braćo, otićemo sada samo da položimo vijenac gore na spomenik palim borcima i onda ćemo se vratiti u crkvu. Ajmo formirati samo po 5.
Ajde po 5 ljudi, samo kolonu.
The fighters are Bosnian Serbs, killed 30 years ago during the war against the Muslims and Croats. Many Wolves members were on the front line at the time.
Kao što znate, mi smo patriotski klub i posjećujemo samo, i rekao sam, crkve, spomenike palim borcima u proteklom ratu.
Once inside the chapel, the real reason for the Wolves' visit becomes clear. To support the 4,000 Serbian inhabitants of Drvar, who find it very hard to be surrounded by Muslims. The priest's words are openly hostile.
Sa jedne strane smo mi koji smo pravoslavni na braniku naše otadžbine, vjere i naroda, koji pokušavamo da sačuvamo ono zrno pravoslavlja, a evo danas se borimo da opstanemo uopšte biološki jer zbog svega onoga što nas okružuje i snalazi na ovim prostorima, nama je borba da opstanemo.
In this battle for survival, the people of Drvar can count on Russia's support.
To je ikona Svetog Petra Cetinskog, a i mi smo vama jednu ikonu rusku donijeli ovdje da vam poklonimo, da imate sjećanje na noćne Vukovar. Ne samo Republike Srpske, nego na sve noćne Vukovar kao klub.
Hvala vam puno. Hvala puno.
At the exit, as the head of the Wolves Club spoke to the local press, we tried to ask him a question about the Russo-Serbian friendship. But because we're French, Goran Tadic was suspicious and refused to talk to us. Then he got angry at our translator.
Znate da ste dobili veliku čast što ste sa nama.
Naravno, zato smo da...
Nemojte ustavljati, već mi s tog momenta prekinuti saradnje i posle ćemo vas kući.
Dobro.
Tu sa nama, ako hoćete, izvijestite objektivno onako kako je. A mi sada da ja se vama prilagođavam.
Goran Tadic was tense because he was the one who negotiated our permission to film directly with Moscow. More particularly with this man, Alexander Zaldostanov, founder of the Night Wolves. He's nicknamed the Surgeon in reference to his medical studies. Here are the two men pictured with Vladimir Putin. The Russian president calls the leader of the Wolves my brother.
И мне очень приятно, что такие мужественные, крутые ребята подают пример молодым людям в нашей стране и показывают им, как нужно относиться к России.
The Night Wolves see themselves as the Knights of the Tsar. Serving his propaganda, they distrust Western media like us. In Bosnia, we were able to film the Serbian Wolves ride without much difficulty. But their leader, Goran Tadic, avoided us until the evening. After off-camera negotiations, he finally agreed to a short interview.
Veza Rusa I Srba traje vjekovima, još od cara Nikolaja, I vjerujte da mi smo jedan narod, da isto proživljavamo. Evropa se ujedinjuje, pravi Evropsku uniju, nas razjedinjuje. Pogledajte šta je bilo sa Jugoslavije, sa Sovjetskog saveza. Znači, oni nas razjedinjuju, a oni se ujedinjuju, znate. Ako ne postoji mogućnost zajedničkog života u Bosni i Hercegovini, što ja ne vidim da ne postoji, onda je jedini način da se mi odvojimo I da živimo sami kao republika.
Goran Tadic appeared calm, but in reality the Night Wolves, like the overwhelming majority of Bosnian Serbs, want independence. For the Serbian Republic to separate from Bosnia-Herzegovina, even if it means provoking a new conflict. The next day is the 28th of June, the Serbian bank holiday of Vivovdan. The Wolves go to a monastery. They're among the guests of honor at an official ceremony organized by the government of the Serbian Republic. The Wolves take their place alongside elected officials, veterans, the military, and the entire government of the Bosnian Serb Republic, not forgetting the Orthodox priests hand in hand with the Serbian Nationalists leader, Milorad Dodik. His only dream for the Serbian Republic to leave Bosnia-Herzegovina. For several years he has been hammering it into every speech.
Ona je tu, snažna, ona je tu, znaš šta hoće, Republika Srpska neće odustati od Srba. Dakle, što se tiče odnosa u Bosni i Hercegovini, Bosna i Hercegovina je propala zemlja. nije garant za našu slobodu. Ona što bude duže trajala, to je sve veća opasnost za Srbiju.
Milorad Dodik isn't satisfied with just giving speeches. In October 2021, he threatened to take up arms again. That day, the government of the Bosnian Serb Republic gave a display of force that was reported by all national media. They organized a large-scale military exercise on the hills of Sarajevo. For the first time since the end of the conflict in 1995, Serbian gunfire rang out not far from the capital, which was under siege during the war. The Serbian leader's main supporter, Vladimir Putin.
Mi ne možemo da uvedemo sankcije Rusije i nećemo. To sam rekao i predsjedniku Putinu kad sam bio neki dan kod njega. U svakom slučaju, jedna stvar koju mi je rekao, mi ne napuštamo svoje prijatelje. I meni dovoljno i vama treba biti.
Milorad Dodik and Vladimir Putin meet regularly. Considered an ally of Russia, Dodik is under US sanctions. Just before the invasion of Ukraine, Dodik organized another demonstration of force in support of Moscow. A parade of thousands of armed men. Officially, they were policemen, because Bosnian Serbs aren't allowed to form an army. These images shocked the Muslim community. Among them is Muezin Omerovic, who lives in central Bosnia.
C'était pas une parade de police. C'était police avec les fusils militaires, avec tout l'équipement militaire. C'était comme une armée.
For Muslims, the demonstration held a clear threat of war, signaling the risk of history repeating itself.
Ça se sentait dans l'air. L'atmosphère, c'était même comme l'année 92. Le même. Tu sais, tout était prêt pour une nouvelle guerre. En fait, c'est la résistance du peuple d'Ukraine qu'on nous sauvait aussi.
Because Vladimir Putin got stuck in Ukraine.
Ah, quel bout!
Supporting the Serb nationalists in Bosnia is no longer Putin's priority. For Muslims like Muezin Omerovic, this is a relief, because 30 years later he's still affected by the 92 to 95 war. He fled from the Serbs into this forest and is one of the few survivors of the Srebrenica massacre. On the 11th of July 1995, the men of Serbian General Ratko Mladic invaded this town in the east of the country. They drove out all the Muslim inhabitants of Srebrenica. Women, children and old people were evacuated before UN peacekeepers who were unable to put a stop to the ethnic cleansing. Muslim men and teenagers, both soldiers and civilians, were systematically executed. 8,300 people died. The International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia concluded it was an act of genocide.
Après le shoot de Srebrenica, je suis resté 2 mois dans les forêts, tous les jours chassé par les forces serbes. On avait partout des champs de mines, on avait partout des embuscades, sans nourriture, sans rien. On a mangé le truc que tu trouves dans la nature. Quand tu te bats pour ta vie, tu deviens un animal. Tu deviens un vrai animal.
Muezin Omerovic became one of the organizers of the Peace March. It takes place every year for 3 days. Thousands of Bosnians and peace activists crossed the mountains where the victims of Srebrenica lost their lives. The route ends at the memorial dedicated to them. 6,500 graves. As they approach the cemetery, the marchers pay their respects. Then they join the bereaved families. Sports associations, Islamic associations, military associations. The whole population of Bosnian Muslims gather here on the 11th of July. The cemetery is constantly growing as bodies of victims of the Srebrenica massacre are still being discovered. This year, there are around 50 of them. Men and women pray side by side in one of the most important mixed prayers in the Muslim world.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
Of the 100,000 people who died in the conflict 30 years ago, more than 60% were Muslims. After the prayers, the families bury their loved ones, while speakers read out the names of the deceased. These Muslim ceremonies anger the Serbs. A few kilometers away from the ceremony, we come across portraits left anonymously. The faces of hundreds of Serbian civilians killed during the war. Most Serbs in the region believe that they too were victims of ethnic cleansing and that the whole world ignores them. A resentment that Vladimir Putin uses to his advantage. To gain a better understanding, we met Kosta Rashimovic, the Night Wolves biker with the sleeve of nationalist tattoos. He takes us to his family home near the town of Teslic. Here you can see portraits of General Mladic everywhere, a man convicted of crimes against humanity. During the war, the biker was only a teenager. He had to flee his village with his mother and two brothers. The hamlet is perched half an hour's drive up the mountains. The road got less and less navigable. All that remains of the village are ruins hidden under the grass.
A tu smo mi živjeli 4 godine rata, gore je bila linija, gore su bili muslimani. Da, bilo je ovdje 3-4 kuće. Da, to je bilo naše, ovo je sve naše ovdje okolo. 4 godine rata, znaš kako je bilo. Ovdje iza ovamo ne vidi se tamo brdo. Tamo je ona poznata prva jedinica koja je krenula, El Mujahid, oni bradonje, sve.
The El Mujahid unit are the foreign Islamist fighters who came to help the Bosnian Muslim soldiers, Algerians, Saudis, Pakistanis, Afghans. These jihadists fought against the Serbs for most of the war, some of them later joining the ranks of Al-Qaeda.
Kad ide sve prema tebi, i mi smo bježali ovamo, smo išli nazad, vidiš kad ti pali kuću, kad ono pljačka vodi sve što si imalo, mislim, ono bilo je loše, jebaj, mislim.
The Serb wanted to show us some more ruins a little further on.
Ovdje je bilo 7-8 kuća, vidiš šta je ostalo. On ne može izaći, ovdje okolo je minirano.
There were active mines all around us. We had to be careful where we stepped. This is the route Kosta Rashimovic and his family took to escape the Muslim troops in 1995.
Pa ignoriš, nek vidi malo i pogleda. Ovo se sve ignoriše, ovo se sve zaboravlja, ovo niko neće da prikaže. Ne samo ovo selo, znaš koliko sela ima u federaciji, srpskih sela. Spaljeni, koji isto liče ovako, zaraslo. Ne poznaješ da je bilo išta, da su ovdje kad ljudi živjeli.
There's clearly anger among Serb nationalists, the feeling that their dead have been forgotten and that the Western world accuses them of being the only ones who committed war crimes.
Pa da, oni jedini razumiju naš problem. Evropa vidi, ali neće da čuje, razumiju. Neće da... Šta je dobro u Evropskoj uniji? Pa mi bi Srbi ovdje pravoslavci najviše volili da se priključimo Ruskoj federaciji.
They want to get closer to the Russians, but to what extent?
Mi imamo naše odjeljenje u Donbasu. Noćni Vukova, ne, Rusku. I ako braći treba pomoć, mi smo braća, mi smo tu. Oni su tu za nas i mi za njih. Šta je tu problem? Ne vidim tu nikakav problem. Da nije sam 2014. Pa nije sam 2014. Borimo se čitavo vrijeme u Donbasu, znači i dan danas. U čemu je tu problem? Mi smo na ruskoj strani.
Kosta himself is prepared to join them. But he assures us he wouldn't fight here against the Muslims. Bosnia's fate lies partly in the hands of Ukraine. But what about neighboring Serbia? A 6-hour drive across the border brings us to the capital, Belgrade. This is where invasive Serbian nationalism was born, over 30 years ago by former President Slobodan Milosevic. After encouraging ethnic cleansing in Bosnia, Milosevic wanted to drive the Albanians out of Kosovo. That was in 1999. But once again, NATO intervened and bombed Serbia for 2.5 months. Belgrade was hit particularly hard. Some of the buildings destroyed at the time, including the old TV headquarters, still haven't been rebuilt. Many Serbs are still angry with NATO, especially young nationalist leaders like Damjan Knežević.
Jedan od simbola NATO bombardovanja iz 1999. godine je ovaj generalštab koji posle 23 godine već nije obnovljen. Tu je prikazano razaranje naše zemlje. Prelepili ovaj veliki baner, ali opet...
Politically, this former pro basketball player is on the far right end of the spectrum. He created the People's Patrol. He and his activists consider every migrant a potential delinquent and won't hesitate to arrest them and hand them over to the police.
And put this, please. Okay? When you going after, put this. Is that okay? Okay, you have baggage. Where are you from, guy? You speak English? You're better. Tell me, is danger in your area because Taliban's and...
Yeah, there's a lot of dangerous places.
But you left your family and came to Europe?
Yeah, and we left our country, we left our families there, and we came here to have a better life.
Okay, but where is the girls with you?
There is no girls.
You cannot bring with you?
No.
Okay, but why you have military bag?
It's not mine, it's one of the friends just took
That
me.
is also not good
Yeah, it's,
in Serbia, believe me.
Yeah.
Please,
Yeah,
don't have military
Yeah,
bag.
I know that. I'm educated. I know that clothes...
That is
will not
normal,
be
that is
armored.
normal.
Yeah, the clothes
And
not
put
be
this
armored.
because somebody wanna steal.
By lecturing this young Afghan, he's also addressing us Westerners.
Please, speak with your people. Tell him to be good with our people. And please, if you want to go in Europe when you can. We are not guilty for war in Afghanistan. We are Serbian people. We also have war on our territory, you know? Not to make war on our territory.
The loss of Kosovo as a result of NATO's intervention is unacceptable for the majority of Serbs. Serbia never recognized the country's independence in 2008, while 90% of Kosovo is populated by Albanian Muslims.
Mi se nikad nećemo odreći i prije ili kasnije će ponovo se slobodno šetati na ulicama i Gračanice, i Prištine, i Prizrena, jer to je naša vekovna zemlja. Za nas je Kosovo i Metohija i Jerusalim.
Their main ally is Vladimir Putin, who has never recognized Kosovo's independence. Damjan Knežević has become the Kremlin's biggest supporter. Since the beginning of the invasion of Ukraine, he has mobilized hundreds of thousands of his followers to support the Russian army. On the 4th of March 2022, over 2,000 people marched in the streets of Belgrade. Listening to the Russian anthem and trampling over the European flag. 20 days later, another mobilization against NATO took place. The march ended in front of the Russian embassy. 15 days later, another demonstration occurred with over 7,000 people this time. In September 2022, a huge banner was spread out in Belgrade with the Serbian and Russian flags sewn together. However, the main reason Vladimir Putin supports Serbia over Kosovo is to defend the interests of his national flagship, the Russian oil and gas giant Gazprom. As we travel the length and breadth of the country, we find that almost all of the country's petrol stations belong to Gazprom.
Diesel.
15 years ago, Gazprom bought the Serbian national energy company, NIS, at a bargain price, 500 million euros, when NIS was valued at 2 billion. Darko Šper is one of the few Serbian journalists who investigated the takeover. According to him, Serbia made a deal with Putin. We give you NIS and you defend us at the UN with regard to the Kosovo issue.
I vlast, i opozicija, i nacionalisti, i desničari, i levičari, i centar, svi su ovako dočekali rusku kompaniju samo zbog toga da bi uticaj Rusije u Savetu bezbednosti Ujedinjenih nacija ostao isti, da Kosovo ne daju da bude nezavisna država.
Since then, Russia has reportedly kept its word. It has never recognized Kosovo as an independent state. But at what price?
Dobili su sva naftna nalazišta, najnižu rudnu rentu u Evropi, dobili su rafineriju nafte u Novom Sadu, rafinerije nafte u Pančevu, benzinske pumpe neke koje sada drži Gazprom. Znači, oni su za godinu dana poslovanja vratili novac koji su u ovu kompaniju uložili.
«Газпром» – многолетний и надежный партнер Сербии.
As a result, not only does the Russian giant control all of Serbia's oil production, but 85% of the country's annual gas consumption as well.
Est-ce qu'on peut considérer que la Serbie a les mains liées parce que extrêmement dépendante du gaz russe?
Da, Srbija ima vezane ruke i mogu da kažem da Srbija kao zemlja nije ništa konkretno uradila da promeni izvor finansiranja. Pa iz tog razloga smo mi jedina zemlja osim Belorusije u celoj Evropi koja još uvek nije uvela sankcije Rusiji.
Gazprom is everywhere in Serbian daily life. It even finances major basketball and football clubs, like Red Star Belgrade, whose biggest supporters alternate between pro-Russian messages and chants of hatred. Gazprom is also the partner of a festival founded by filmmaker Emir Kusturica, and the fervent financial supporter of the Serbian Orthodox Church for renovating the St. Savra Basilica in Belgrade. Nenad Čanak is one of the rare Serbian political leaders who opposed Gazprom's takeover of NIS in 2008. He is a Serbian opposition figure, pro-Western and anti-Putin. To him, Gazprom's power means that Russia can control any Serbian government.
This is how they're creating a network of food soldiers. So, when you have that in your mind, you see that Russians are insisting that they want to have people inside the government in a position of a force. They want police, they want military, they want, if they can, foreign affairs.
In September 2022, when Vladimir Putin threatened to use nuclear weapons, the Serbian foreign minister signed a cooperation agreement with his Russian colleague Sergei Lavrov. The European Union immediately warned Serbia that its membership process could come to a halt. East, West, Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić was forced to pick a side.
You can put it this way. Vučić is between a rock and a hard place. Because if he turns Serbia toward west, Putin will kill him.
Literally kill him.
Literally. Either polonium in a tea, either novichok on a, I don't know, towel in a bathroom or something like that. But
You're really not kidding.
I'm not kidding whatsoever.
We tried to interview Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić, but he never responded to our interview request. Not only does Russia have a stronghold over Serbia's economy, but further south, it ensures its influence through a very powerful regional tool, the Serbian Orthodox Church. We headed in the direction of Montenegro, a small state of 620,000 inhabitants, which gained independence in 2006. On the 4th of September 2021, protesters blocked this road leading to Cetinje, the historical capital of Montenegro. Their aim was to prevent the passage of Metropolitan Porphyry, the head of the Serbian Orthodox Church. He was due to enthrone the new Archbishop of Montenegro at the Cetinje monastery. The protesters set up roadblocks and clashed with the police. Ana Pejovic is a member of a human rights NGO, Montenegro International. She was among the protesters.
Svaki put kada dođem na ovo mjesto ili kada prođem ovom ulicom, obuzme me velika tuga jer smo tu bili izloženi uvredi, poniženju. Tu su bili ljudi intelektualci, ljudi različitih vjera. Tu nisu bili samo pravoslavni Crnogorci. Svi smo zajedno branili čast i ugled Crne Gore.
Anna is a believer, an Orthodox, but she sees the Serbian clergy as an occupying force in the service of Serbia and Russia.
Ali, posljednjih 7-8 godina mi doživljavamo jednu naprasnu invaziju srpske crkve, srpskog klera, koji je, po mom ličnom mišljenju, klerofašistički.
Faced with the determination of the demonstrators, the Patriarch and the future Archbishop were forced to disembark in Cetinje by helicopter, escorted by Serbian special forces, in the middle of the sovereign territory of Montenegro. These pictures were taken by the Serbian clergy. In this photo, we can see a man in cargo, most probably a member of the Serbian Secret Service. Earlier, through the monastery gates, demonstrators were able to film the arrival of men in civilian clothes. These were the paramilitaries.
U svako doba, dana i noći, u našim crkvama borave strana paramilitarna lica koja su spremna da izvrše sva naređenja koja im dolaze od vrha sveštenstva, ali također i od ruskih i srpskih agenata. Noćni vukovi su također najviše povezani. To je bratstvo koje je najviše povezano sa Rusima.
Here come Putin's bikers without their leather. Some members of the Montenegrin Night Wolves, among other paramilitaries who have come to protect the monastery. The Patriarch and the newly appointed Archbishop will leave as they came, by helicopter. In the summer of 2022, the Serbian Orthodox Church strengthened its power in Montenegro. It signed an agreement with the state confirming its right of ownership over almost all of the country's monasteries and churches. For opposing this, Ana Pejovic received a death threat on the 3rd of August 2022 by two men in a car.
To je bilo u rano jutro, u 8 časova ujutro. To se desilo ispred moje kuće kad sam krenula na posao.
C'était quelqu'un qui était tout seul?
Ne, bili su vozač i suvozač. U mene uperio pištolj suvozač. Ujutro rano uperio mi pištolj u čelo. Pričao je nešto, nisam ga razumjela šta jer mi je bio podignut prozor, a njegov je bio, prozor suvozača je bio otvoren. Naravno da sam osjetila strah i ugroženost za svoj život.
The car drove off again, sneakily captured by the surveillance camera from a nearby pharmacy. A police investigation has been opened. When we left Anna, we requested an interview with the Serbian clergy. A priest was appointed to answer, but on the filming day, he was unreachable. We tried to find him in the chapel where he officiates, with our translator filming discreetly.
Savjeti, pa će on sići, on u ovoj zgradi je tu, ako ga očekujete, on će se ići odmah pasti.
Možete li ga vi nakon izvinite?
Dobro. Evo če, kako ste blagoslovite?
Evo, hvala Bogu još.
Dište, evo, došli su dva brata i jedna djevojka sa kamerama ovdje za intervju, ili u crkvi samo pitu ili ovdje, ili kancelariju.
Malo mi se koncept ne sviđa, to uticaj Rusije na crkvu i to, mislim, prosto ne. Nije ovo prilika za to. Recim da smo inače na raspolaganju. Nekako smo dovedeni situaciju da što god kažemo...
The exchange ended there. The Orthodox Church in Serbia isn't hated by all Montenegrins Far from it. About a third of the population remain pro-Serbian and often pro-Russian. The Russians themselves are very present in the country. Like here in the seaside resort of Budva on the Adriatic coast. Wealthy tourists, expatriates, businessmen, and oligarchs close to the Kremlin own companies or villas here that real estate agencies sell at a high price. And yachts. A quarter of Montenegro's GDP is supplied by Russians. But since the war in Ukraine, it's been a depressing place. Lots of Russians are forbidden to come here, because Montenegro is a member of NATO and voted for sanctions against Russia. But Vladimir Putin may have taken his revenge. In the late summer of 2022, Montenegro suffered a massive cyber attack, data theft and computer paralysis of the main ministries. As head of the Montenegrin Secret Service, Savo Kentera led the investigation to find the culprits. We met him at a conference organized by NATO in Budva. This palace is run by a Russian, a former president of the KGB, the secret services of the former Soviet Union.
Can you tell us who is behind this cyber attack?
Let's put it like this: Russian actors. I think this is the best way to describe the whole situation.
At the moment, you have all evidence needed.
Exactly. Since I was appointed a couple of months ago at this position, my goal was, to get rid of the Russian spies in Montenegro, to stop the malign influence, Russian malign influence in Montenegro, directly from Russia, directly from their proxies. Just look at this coast.
Yep.
Just imagine to have a port, a Russian port in Montenegro, the only exit at the Adriatic Sea. And that was the goal. That was the goal from Russia, taking all infrastructure projects in Montenegro, the energy, the port, everything what we have, and by that, putting us in a totally, dependent position on that. And I started working on that with my team, So we get results in a very short period of time. We discover a network of Russian spies, 35 actually of them. We discover a GRU spy who is a Montenegrin citizen, here working for 30 years for GRU, actually, before that for the KGB,
The result? Montenegro's largest ever expulsion of Russian diplomats and suspected spies. It took place just a few days before this shooting. In Podgorica, the Montenegrin capital, the Russian embassy was completely empty. It's as ghostly as a holiday home in the depths of winter. The Russian ambassador to Montenegro, Vladislav Maslenikov, is alone inside with his deputy. Since the start of our trip to the Balkans, he's the only Russian official who has agreed to talk to us.
Montenegro has been hit by a strong cyber attack. And today, Montenegrin authorities confirmed to us that Russia was behind this cyber attack. What do you think of that?
Can they provide the proof? That's the main thing. Can they provide the proof? It's very easy to say. And we heard this many times in all different countries. We heard about Russia getting involved also by some cyber manipulations into elections in the United States, which is total nonsense. Why Russia should do it? I'm sorry.
To destabilize the pro-NATO government.
What's the interest for us in it? I see no interest in interfering with the cyber attacks. And actually, we said just after a couple of days, or let's say after the first
The ambassador, clearly worried that he isn't following the Kremlin's version word for word, reads us an official statement.
I'm just quoting from the statement. As irresponsible.
The text criticizes the Montenegrin government for refusing a Russian proposal to secure its computer systems.
Of elementary logic, we offered in 2020 the cooperation with the Russian center. Right. No response whatsoever. Nobody asked for help this time. So basically, I would say that it's still irresponsible accusations, which has no proof.
Vladislav Maslenikov said no more. He scrupulously respected the official government line in every answer. When we finally asked him what Russia's strategic objectives in the Balkans were, he quoted his leader once more.
As our minister used to say at some point, Minister of Foreign Affairs, of course, Sergei Lavrov, our interest in the region is peace and stability, and there is basically no sense in looking for any hidden agenda.
I would suggest to change a bit.
Tucked away in his embassy, Vladislav Maslenikov fulfilled his role throughout the entirety of the interview by flatly denying Russia's role in the Balkans. A region whose fate partly depends on the outcome of the war in Ukraine, an explosive region in the heart of Europe.